Well, hello, Internet. My name's Ian Utile, and our team at Beachside Tech Talk are looking forward to kicking off our Monday episode number 46. Here we are. We're going to get started in just a few minutes, but I like to get the live stream up and going. While we wait for the radio countdown, we got about 4 minutes. I'm going to play something from my friend Doc Peace called Build with Purpose. It's a spoken word she did at one of our recent events. Hope you enjoy it.
One thing that decisively you and I cannot live without. We could try for a while to get by without it, but eventually the need to take it in would win. Breath. You may have heard the saying, without vision, a people perish. See, vision and breath have at least one thing in common. They're both accomplished with purpose, one consciously and the other subconscious. Imagine if we built with purpose, connected with purpose, lived with purpose. We know the digital divide is real, yet we continue to build for the people whose greatest appeal is for the latest and greatest, the cutting edge, while others are left on the digital ledge. See, critical innovations permeate our society. But would these creations exist if those who needed it most didn't demand it? What could we build for humanity with our minds, our time, our funding that's equally as important as breath? As we continue this quest to build tech that serves us with the best of our collective minds, do we dare hold our breath as we ask ourselves this? How can we build with purpose? Greetings again. I'd like to invite us all now to ground in together, take a collective breath in and out. And as you take this collective breath, I want you to think what your truest purpose is. As I shared earlier this morning, my name is Dr. Peace Uche, also known as Doc Peace. I'm a doctor by trade, spoken word poet at heart, founder of Golden Meta Empowerment Hub, and I ignite events with spoken word, as we just experienced here today. When Ian asked me to create this custom spoken word poetry piece to embody purpose, my first thought was, of course, that's what I do best. And my second thought was, what an honor. What an honor it is to be here in this time, in this place, in this state, with the tools and the tech that we have to build with purpose. So I want to thank Ian and the entire Purpose team for bringing us all here together today to remind us all of who we truly are. And I want to thank you all for being present, for choosing to build with purpose, for choosing to be true to your core, and choosing to be gold, like the genuine, original, loving dreamers that we all are. Thank you.
Well, we're about ready to get started here at the radio. We got the 20-second countdown. So let me share all our screens. Look at all these beautiful people we got here with us. Mm-hmm. All right, everybody. Ready to rock and roll. Happy Monday, party people.
Happy people party.
Happy Monday.
Let it out. There's so many ways to greet the radio. Hello, radio. My name is Ian Utile. I'm here with my brother Dan, my son Malachi, Ted, drove over from the Silicon Valley. We got Nigel coming in from the East Coast, and my wife is here with us as well. Our two younger boys are actually in school now. That's probably a big change for a lot of families locally. But it's good to be here at 1340 a.m. KOMY, home of
Back
Schoolhouse
to school.
Radio.
School has started.
It has.
And Schoolhouse Radio is open.
It's true, Ted. It's true. Wide open. This is episode 46. So very thankful to have built the foundation with this team on what we're doing here. And we're talking community and philanthropy today. But before we dive in, I'd like to kind of touch on some past impact of what's happened with community and philanthropy. And we'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's catch up. Malachi and myself and Ted, we tried to join you, Dan and Nigel. We really did.
Yeah,
we tried. We tried to.
Yeah, I felt. It seemed like I felt something, but yeah, there was a try, and then something just happened.
I don't know what it was. Underhanded, trash talking.
But
you guys tried.
I felt a try,
but you didn't try hard enough.
I did see.
Strip us of our excuses.
No. The try was actually a succeed. It wasn't even a try. It was a do. And yeah, we were just trying to connect with you to see if we could hear some of the first event happenings.
Yes.
On the base stories that were going on this last week.
Well, we'll talk a bit about that. It was we got it going for a moment on Wednesday, but then it kind of all fell apart on me. So we did 17 hours of live streaming at that Coinbase event Wednesday through Saturday, which is pretty wild. I don't think I've done 17 hours of live streaming in 4 days before. Maybe I have at NFT NYC, but it definitely was a lot of conversations, a lot of moments, and some great highlights. Ted, you're with us each day. Thank you for being there with us. Maybe did you not make it on Friday because you went over to Cheyenne's thing?
Yeah, I was there every day, minus Friday and Sunday, but Sunday is basically over.
Yeah, but you're with us Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. It was great. Malachi, you're with us the whole time, all 5 days. Why don't you jump in, son, and just tell our friends here about the community that we got to be a part of, because a lot of philanthropy right now done through Web3 is done with USDC, coordinated by the Coinbase app or the Base wallet. So it very much ties to our conversation today. So share a bit about what we experienced.
In relation to philanthropy or just my experience overall?
Tell us what happened.
Well, we got there and we were there for about, I think, 4 or 5 days. It was one of the most impactful events I think I've ever been to. We were getting to be there with not just the Coinbase or Base team, but primarily the Christ is King team. They are people who've been here with us a few times, and they have their own token that they've launched, which is the best approach I've seen and the one that I guess I'm close with, of trying to decentralize something like the Christian movement and people who claim that they follow Jesus. And I think it's going to be something that will turn out good. I mean, it feels so obvious. Make it so that instead of everyone is on their own, they can all unify under one currency. Like, Dad, you've said a lot of times that you feel that currency being digital is kind of inevitable. And it makes sense for that to be something that happens. Everybody's going to have a wallet with USDC or USDT or whatever, Bitcoin, Ethereum. And then they're also going to want tokens to just identify themselves as part of some kind of community. And you've said how you think that Christ is King is probably going to be one of the kingdom tokens that ends up being owned by a lot of people who want to have some kind of currency that identifies them in that way. And that's just on the Christ is King side. It was amazing getting to be, for me specifically, getting to be around so many people who knew so much more than me. Like the first day I got to be around this guy named Chris. He was a filmer who was doing some things for us, and he gave me the time to
shout out to Christopher Chandler.
I love you, dude. He gave me the time to sit down and show me what he was working on, and he was busy, but he saw that I had a genuine curiosity.
Right.
And so he rewarded that. And that was very kind of him. And he also just knew so much. Like, he was rolling with it. And then throughout the next few days, one of the guys coding, his name was Michael. And he fully took the time to just show me what he was working on and to explain things to me and to answer any questions I had. And I learned so much just from those two guys alone. That doesn't even count everyone else.
Which one are you going to follow up more on? Are you going to learn how to code, or are you going to learn
Oh, that's not a question to ask. It's not really about which thing I do. I might not even do either. I don't really care too much specifically about coding or about videography. What I care more about is that I learned more of like the concepts. I learned that someone is much more willing to teach if I have a genuine curiosity. I learned that someone who is way smarter than me in a certain way, I should be spending my time around them. Those are like the two big takeaways from that.
You know, they say if you're the smartest person in the room,
you should move to a different room.
So the smartest people in the room are pretty dumb because they don't know which room to go to.
Well, sometimes you need leaders too, though.
Nigel, why don't you jump in and say hello to everybody and maybe jump off of what Malachi started?
Well, I think it's always wonderful to hear the connection of each one teach one. It's an important concept that I feel needs to be supported, celebrated, encouraged, and propagated as much as possible, especially at a time where technology is moving so fast and we have such great opportunity to advance. So it was pleased to hear that. So good on you.
Yeah, that's awesome. We tried to get with you even on Thursday and Friday, but that was unsuccessful. Friday, we were actually down in the bomb shelter. But yeah, there was a lot of the stuff that happened at your base event, and we were able to, I myself was able to pick up on some of the streaming that was done. I guess they did have a hackathon that they did throughout the whole event. And did a rewarding on Sunday where someone who actually won? What was the hack?
Yeah, there were 6 qualified winners. So we entered the hackathon. I think there's 20 teams, and they were like some of the best in the world, flew out from Europe and things of that nature.
And then what was the idea of the hack? Are you trying to get into something, get out of something, figure something out, decipher something? What was it? You don't have to be like really specific, but maybe so we could understand what it was.
Explain what
happened in the hackathon.
Yeah, the basic premise of Base is Coinbase's decentralized approach. So just to explain this to our audience, with Web3 and specifically with decentralized finance, or what we often refer to as cryptocurrency, the blockchain magic internet money, you have things like Bitcoin, which is in and of itself its own blockchain. You have things like Ethereum, which is the utility token attached to the Ethereum blockchain. You then have the first approach to independent tokens, which is done on the Ethereum protocol. So people use the ERC20 protocol to launch all sorts of different tokens, okay? And so maybe people have heard of things like Pepe, the Pepe meme coin, or Sheeb, the Sheeb Inu meme coin. And that's pretty well known because they both reached, I think, $10 billion market cap and above.
Yeah.
These were built on Ethereum. So all these different cryptocurrencies have been growing and maturing over time. We went through a phase where NFTs was the craze around all things digital assets, crypto collectibles. And now the state of things is kind of building these currencies around memes and communities. So the meme coin approach. Now, with Coinbase, if you hold your Bitcoin or your favorite meme coins on a Coinbase wallet, then Coinbase actually, it's their tokens that they've allocated to your account, and you can buy and sell them with, having them facilitated. It's one of the easiest ways to jump into this world. The Base wallet is different. You don't enter a Base wallet with a username and password like you would traditionally. You have to know your 12-word phrase, and so you have responsibility to maintain your ownership and ability to log into it. In that regard, the Base app is supposed to compete with like the Apple App Store and the Google Play App Store and the Android, Samsung app stores. Now, Apple and Google both take 30% of all revenue. Base has made an agreement to take 0 fees. So therefore, if you build the next great music app, social media app, translation app, AI app, whatever it is that you want to build, and you roll it out on base and it is successful and you generate a lot of money, you can keep 100% of that money compared to Apple and Google, only letting you have 70%. Therefore, the hackathon was inviting some of the best developers in the world to come to San Francisco for 5 days and really dive in for 3 days, build something that's of value, launch it on the base app, and then the 4th day, show it off to the world, and then the 5th day, kind of the next steps. Out of the 20 teams, 6 of the teams, we were able to launch something that was valid, that had some ability to get some traction and maybe go viral. And so Coinbase got behind those. And I think they offered $200,000. I don't think it was all cash, but whatever they did, it was
like a grant.
Yeah, grant, something of that nature.
So they could build whatever they were talking about.
Yeah.
That sounds sweet.
And so there were some great apps. We built an app called Daily Bread. The basic premise was like proverb of the day. And when you get the proverb of the day, there's something attached to, daily bread. It's like your money is your bread. And so I think there's something attached to like being able to give $1 away. So you take in a proverb and then you pick somebody to send $1 to. So instead of, and then that person can go on and send that and it multiplies. So there's a fun little game there. And our team did build that out, but we did not launch it live on the base app. So we did not qualify for the ability to like win the award, but the team was doing great. And we had like 25 people there from the CIK team. So I think our team was about 8, and then the rest of the folks that flew in and drove in was another 15 plus, and we had a great time. I mean, it was definitely a meaningful bonding time with the team that's all focused on base. The base leadership team was there. Got to spend considerable time getting to know them, understanding how we can best kind of work with them. What's your feeling, Ted, on the community? Because you're there with all of us that were there as part of our team. You're there with Paul Peisner, who you built community with in San Francisco, and others that you've gotten to know. In fact, you've gotten to know Brandon and Curtis really well as we started our relationship with them about a year ago. So what's your take on the CIK community? That, they're building this movement, and what's your take on the base community? Because that's what we're talking about today, is how does Web3 and or AI help with community building and fostering philanthropy? So yeah, give us some insight.
Well, that was one of the highlights to me, the Christ is King people, getting to know them better. We've known them. I've been there since the beginning since we've been building this relationship with them, and I like them. But their team, top notch. The Annie is brilliant, very interesting young lady. She's a huge sensation on TikTok and all that. And then the editor, what was his name? The Albert, man,
he
so talented, and just neat guys. I really enjoyed the team. Mike too, the guy from LA, is that his name? Mike?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, he's just a fireball.
Yeah, no
we
doubt.
had several deep conversations, and that was refreshing. He's experiencing this personal renewal in his life, and he's coming from a pretty tough background and been through some heavy stuff, and now just taking leadership to move out of that and restart. Also been through, it's the Wild West out there in the Web3 world, and there's a lot of amazing people working really hard to do great stuff. There's also people out there who are super smart, working really hard to do nefarious things, and you can get hurt, and I think all of us have been through that and have seen the ups and downs, and it was like hearing some of those the conversations of how people are navigating that and going through that. Even Christ is King has had to navigate some very difficult things to get their coin to the place it is, and being victim of scams that they had to navigate and move through, and that's one of the signs of their integrity, the way they've handled those and dealt with those. So yeah, the community really encouraged me. The Christ is King are just eager, zealous, full of ideas, full of vision, working very, very hard and wanting to bring Christians all over the world on chain. I think that is a very noble idea. And, Christianity, I believe it's the fastest growing, certainly at one point early on, we were by far the fastest growing people movement in the history of humanity. I believe it's at that place still. And I believe if you put everyone together, it's the largest, religion, community of people.
Last night I was having me and Nathan were just yapping, and he had said, we were talking about the stars, and he was like, 99 billion people. And I think he was talking about like how many people on the earth. And I'm like, well, there's not actually 99 billion people, but I wonder if the amount of humans that have lived on the earth is somewhere around 99 billion.
No,
or if it's even more.
It's not. Okay, you want to hear a crazy stat that's going to blow your mind?
Yes.
Somewhere between one third to one half of the people who have ever existed are alive today.
Right.
Is that really that?
Yeah.
But
yeah. You look at the curve. You look at the growth curve in its exponential growth curve. So you had steady, and then really around the industrial age, agriculture, and then the industrial age, and humanity grew like this. So half of the people who've ever existed are alive
does
today.
that count like children that die? Because the thing is, I mean, I've heard you say so many times, Dad, how there's plenty of people who would have 10 plus kids and only a few would survive.
Understand the mathematics of multiplication. So, we're at a peak of childbearing, probably in the 20th century. More children being born, more children surviving their infants into adolescence, etc. And so we definitely have had a peak moment as humanity when it comes to our ability to, grow in population. And that's one big human family, right? We all are, fifth or 55th cousin of each other in some way, form or fashion. I don't think it matters if you believe in evolution or creation or some sort of hybrid in between. Ultimately, we all have the sense that we came from, some core person or small group of people. Therefore, we're all connected. And I think we have a lot in common. It sure would be nice if people tried to find what they have in common and tried to work together and collaborate. And that's the nice thing about these technologies is that these technologies do lead humans to be more collaborative. You find Democrats, Republicans in America, you find people in the Conservative and Labour Party over in the UK, you find Muslims and Catholics, you find Hindus and Buddhists coming together over, big things like, hey, how do we all build safe guardrails, regulations, compliance for AI? Hey, how do we all leverage Web3 to make sure that people can have banking ability and be able to save and be able to do something? So sometimes we can get beyond some of our hangups if we just find something to all share in common with one another.
Certainly.
Nigel, love for you to jump in and maybe share. I think you said that you've seen a few things online that was going on. Obviously, we had gone live for 17 hours over the 4 days, and then our team posted a lot. The base people post a lot. Anything stand out to you about this emerging base community that you think has anything special or unique that kind of, you want to highlight?
I think one of the interesting things you said was about decentralized versus centralized, because Coinbase is centralized. It is because it has a lot of connection with the government and other things, but that base component being decentralized, that's how they present. I think it's helpful. The fact that you have the opportunity to save fees versus Apple offer some competition, which I think would be helpful for developers. And just overall, the idea of anything that fosters community is helpful, that keeps us connected, because the technology itself is connecting us right now. The question is how much of it is, how much opportunity are we losing by not leaning more into the human part of it? Because we have human communities everywhere. And it's up to the people to bring the folks in the human communities to the digital so that you're prepared, so to speak, so that you can communicate in those spaces a little bit better, can foster the adoption. And it's going to be people who are trustworthy, people that feel confident that they can show them the way. And, and I think over time that'll help drive some of those opportunities and get us further down the road. So I'm optimistic.
Well, one of the things you said about the excitement of, like we got to focus not just on the Web3 community, not just the people who are in that world, but the real excitement are the communities that are out there that, they're just communities. They're going around doing what communities do, and they may or may not be into Web3. That was one of the things that was refreshing. That was one of the real key points, is to see the intentional focus, both with the Christ is King people and the base people, that interaction between Jesse and Curtis, where Curtis asked Jesse that very question. Jesse is the CEO of Base. Curtis is the co-founder of Christ is King. And he asked basically his version of that same question. What's most important to Christ is King are these communities of people who they identify as Christian, but they're, maybe they're in their 70s, and they don't know Web3. If I explain it to them, they might listen. It's got to be easy and simple. And they're just normal people, and they care about community. They care about their church. They care about philanthropy. They care about their grandkids. Are you going after them? Are they your target audience? And that's very much, right on board with what Base is doing. And I mean, that's what Web3 needs to solve. If they don't solve that issue, we're going to be stuck where we're at of just, we have to get beyond where we're at right now with as a niche technology to widespread adoption. And we've got to just make it ease of use. And we've got to cater to the communities that are just communities doing what communities do. They're not technologists, and they don't necessarily aspire to. They want technology to serve them rather than having to serve technology.
I mean, look at the example of telephones, of anything that really is technology. People who didn't have it before, like, dude, what? Like, you have this massive computer and all this stuff is super confusing and I have to code everything for it to make sense. Like, no, I'm not going to participate in this. I'm fine just with my normal life, the way humans have always been. And that's the way a lot of people are now about new technologies like Web3. AI is kind of different because of how much it just jumps in your face at how useful it is. And also they've done pretty well at making it accessible. But things like Web3 are quite confusing still. And so the key is, how do we make it so that people cannot be confused by things like Web3? And I see that being something that is going to be, if not solved, made a lot easier very soon.
Well, thank you for joining us here at KOMY, home of Schoolhouse Radio. We will be back again in about 4 minutes after our commercial break, and looking forward to diving into the Web3 news of the day, how it's impacting community and philanthropy.
So we're having so many great NFT and metaverse conversations here in the C-Space studio, but the first question that comes to mind about this is like, okay, everything can be an NFT. You can make any piece of content NFT, any clip, any moment, anything. What about the basic laws of supply and demand here, right? Like if the market is flooded with, if every piece of content ever is an NFT, what are they actually worth? What does that mean?
Well, you have to think of NFTs as a receipt with rights. Okay, so your house has a deed or a title. That's the receipt. The right is you get to live there, and the car has a pink slip. Or you buy a ticket to an event, and it has a seat number, right? Yeah. So it's non-replaceable or non-fungible. Yeah. It's a receipt with rights. You bought that. You have the receipt. You get to sit there. So if everything becomes an NFT, the question about supply and demand is going to be on utility. What's the usefulness of this NFT? And what is the right that comes with this NFT? And is the right used up as soon as the NFT is kind of checked off that this thing's been done, like you go to a concert? Or does this NFT have ongoing value and utility, like a car, where you can drive it until you're ready to sell it?
Yeah.
And so I think it's a much more layered and complex situation, and people in the market will figure these things out over time.
So where does the NLP part come in? That's natural language processing,
right.
which is a part of artificial intelligence. So where does that come into it?
So the first step was to make sure that people could call up the content with their voice, using their voice devices.
Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
saying to Amazon Lexi, I'll call it Lexi so it doesn't fire off all your systems, open attention live. It says what channel do you want to listen to, Ian Utile or CES, and then it brings up a 24/7 continuous stream of content that can be interrupted any time. And then the vision ultimately is that people can say, hey, Google Assistant, open attention live, and it says, do you want to listen or go live? And that you, in your car, can say, I want to go live. I don't want to be a content consumer in my car. I want to be a content creator. So you call up Attention Live. It says, do you want to go live? You say yes. You start talking. You create a podcast, and NFTs created against that. And that ultimately is a big part of our vision for leveraging NLP, is that people can just talk to the machines and either listen as a consumer or create as a podcaster.
And so you're here at CES in part for a panel called Voice in the Metaverse.
Yeah.
Voice and the Metaverse, excuse me. What does that mean? What is that all about?
So I just did a talk. I did the final keynote at the Voice Summit on December 8th, so recently, less than a month ago. And at that, I was telling all of the executives at Samsung Bixby and Microsoft Cortana, those that are building the greatest NLP machine learning technology. And I said, listen, these rebels that are creating the Web3 world, they don't realize it, but they're totally dependent on the voice tech industry. So the metaverse doesn't function with thumbs on glass. The metaverse doesn't function with fingers on a keyboard. It's not like we have eye reading and we're going to have these headsets on, they're going to know our thoughts. No, you have to use your voice. So it doesn't matter how decentralized you are, or what your decentralized autonomous organization is, or that you're the Web3 rebel, anarchist, renegade, taking down the Web2 centralized world. That's fine. You still probably need hardware like a Microsoft Halo or a Facebook Oculus.
Yep.
You also still probably need to leverage some of their UI, UX, and ultimately you're going to have to leverage some of the existing infrastructure around voice technology, which is why today we have the event Voice in the Metaverse at 3 p.m., bringing together some of the thought leaders around what does voice technology and metaverse development look like, and how these things work seamlessly together.
Live.
Welcome back once again to Beachside Tech Talk, episode number 46. My name is Ian Utile, and I'm here with a full house. We got things popping here at KOMY, Home of
Pop,
Schoolhouse
pop, pop.
Radio. That's
Yeah.
right. Snap, crackle, pop. We got all the different sounds. How is everything going over on the East Coast, Nigel? We missed you over here with us. Before we dive into the Web3 news of the day for Community and Philanthropy, catch us up. What's happening in Florida?
It's starting to cool off just a little bit. We got a lot of rain, which is helpful. So it's actually get back to walking outside in a little bit, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's been the big news. Lots and lots of rain.
Rain is so cool. The fact that water can just fall out of the sky. I saw something like when we were in school, they are like, yeah, the water cycle. Almost all the water is like cycling between the air, the ground, and then the ocean, and then back up. But really, a lot of the water is locked in things like aquifers. And you know how we're constantly sucking the water out of the ground from the aquifers, and it's kind of messing up the water cycle. There's plenty of things like that where humans, being humans, have these things where it's kind of short term, like with all the climate change things where we are moving a lot of the carbon that has been locked in the ground in the form of oil into the air or into plastic or whatever that is. And it is a fair thought to be like, well, what are we going to do about changing all these earthly rhythms to the way they are now? I mean, things being sustainable is something that just, it has to happen eventually. And so the question is like, how do we get there? I think, honestly, to loop back to the technologies that we're working on, a lot of the things like AI or Web3 or other big technologies that are the things of today are going to be the groundwork for letting people kind of start to care more about the future, because we do know that people are going to live longer. We already have medicine that made it so people lived from not very long to around 100. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm the first generation who's able to live to somewhere around 150. And so we do have to start thinking about tomorrow and what that's going to look like. What ways do you guys think that these new technologies, whether it's Web3 or AI, are going to be able to affect us to move into a more renewable world? And what ideas could spark from that?
Go ahead, Nigel.
I think there's a harmony that needs to happen, because we're building very fast, and that comes at a ecological cost. Whether it's the power we're using, the cooling, everything that goes along with it, even our own attention, all these things cost. And unlike before, when we were using paper and pencils and pens and that sort of thing, and I'm sure that had an impact on the environment as well. I think every time we do a search now, at least it's been, in the forefront of my mind, that what I do on the internet is impacting the environment in a very more direct way now. I'm very cognizant of that. And I think the more we look at that and realize that it's beyond just, oh, I love animals, or I love birds, or I love the sea, or I love sea life, that kind of thing. But everything we do, our phones, our computers, our prompts, actively, directly affecting the world, I think it's finding that harmony, not balance, it's harmony between what we use this technology for and why. And more specifically, in a more tangible way, going to Trinidad for summers, it wouldn't be uncommon that we would run out of water for a while and the power would cut off. And thinking back to those times, it didn't seem like a hardship. It was just like we did something else. We went outside, we lit a lantern or something. We caught rainwater in case, to be prepared. But now, if parents want their kids' attention, they just turn off the Wi-Fi. It's instant. So the dependency is different. So things to consider.
Those are good things to consider. Mm-hmm. Let me share some interesting news updates. One thing I'll say about the Web3 community and philanthropy impact upon our local area is there's a lot of global and national initiatives that anybody in Santa Cruz, anybody in Tampa, Florida, anybody in San Jose, where we live, can take advantage of these things. So, for instance, MEXC, MEXC, which is a global exchange, kind of like a competitor to Coinbase or Robinhood or, Binance, if you've heard of those. They just announced a $30 million grant program. So, you want to know what's popping right now in Santa Cruz? Anybody that found out about that and says, I want a piece of that $30 million. So, sometimes the greatest thing that a local, nonprofit can do is say, hey, MEXC's giving out free grant money for any nonprofit that ties in NFTs and starts giving away customized one-of-one art, digital art with all their donations. Hey, MEXC is giving, grant money to anybody that will start accepting crypto as donations or as payment for events and books and, teachings. Hey, any MEXC right now is giving a grant to any nonprofit that pays their people in crypto. If you set it up to where your people don't have to have a wire transfer that takes, 12 hours or 72 hours to be transferred from the corporate bank account to the actual person's account. And now they'll start actually paying people in USDC, USDT, or some other cryptocurrency. MEXC will get behind you. So this is an example of oftentimes people are like, what's happening in my town? Like, what's going on here? What's popping in Monterey and Santa Cruz right now? And it's like, well, what is there's all these national and global grant programs that we can take advantage of. So that was one of the first things I want to mention, because that just hit the news waves, was the big thing for Mexi. I do want to mention something we've brought up a couple other times. We did bring up the fact that Santa Cruz put together a special wallet that was supposed to be the Ferrari of blockchain wallets, and they didn't get the usage, so they shut it down recently. And sometimes you use a great tool for the wrong approach. And something I mentioned is like they used it for RV slips and receipts, which that doesn't really have to be on the blockchain. But if they used it for EBT, and all of a sudden they just eliminated a bunch of middlemen, slowness, overreaching, that would, to me, make a lot of sense. So sometimes you have great tech that can really make an impact on a community, really make an impact on philanthropy, but then just not really executed quite right.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I don't know if this is news yet, but this is early coming out, just out of the summit. And a use case that Christ is King is doing is to facilitate, make a better way for direct donation. So it turns out that many of the things we do in philanthropy, particularly from a developed world into a developing world, many of the things are uninformed and they have negative consequences. So rather than helping the problem, they hurt the problem. So like, for example, one of the first things that comes to mind, there was a big push. We've got to get computers and, raise funds. Myself, I help some of my friends raise funds to give computers to developing countries, because that'll allow them to get online. They'll then have access to all of that. They'll have markets, it'll help development. So let's give them computers. Turns out that when you do follow-up studies, computer giveaways are a very bad way of doing philanthropy. They do not have the intended effect. They end up using the computers to play video games and to access porn. And it does not help. It's negative. Okay, so that's one of the things of unthought through, where we have our own ideas and we think they're great, but we don't follow the data. But one of the things that turns out, this is also often counterintuitive, that giving money to the poor in a developed country directly is one of the best ways to do philanthropy. So it turns out that the mother in Mexico or in India or in Africa knows how to spend that money very, very well. And you give it to her, she's not going to spend it on drugs. She's going to sow it into her local economy. It's going to help her. It's going to lift her family up, and it's going to stimulate the local economy. And that's a very good way. So much so that now direct giving is considered like the gold standard of philanthropy. So for any intervention you want to do, you have to compare it to, well, is this better than just giving them the money that it would cost to do this? Your question?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. How do you know that the person you're giving it to is someone who you can trust with that money?
You need some sort of vetting process. You need to have some network on the ground to determine the people, to determine, and the more you can cut out the middlemen, like one thing, like a lot of times when we give aid, even food aid, through the established structures, it ends up not going to the people who need it. Maybe there's corruption in the government. It goes to the government, or, if there's middlemen, they just keep the money and tell you they're giving it away, and they don't. So you need some sort of group on the ground and some sort of vetting process. So, groups like, this idea of adopting a child, Compassion International, adopting a child, that's also another very good way of doing philanthropy. Now, the people you go through have to be trusted, because you're trusting them and they can siphon off the money, not be efficient with it or whatever. But, and there have been cases where that has happened, but by and large, that's a very good way. And it's quite compelling because, you give up what amounts to the cost of a Starbucks once a week, or maybe even once a month, so 30 or 10 to $30 a month, which is nothing to someone here, can completely change the trajectory of somebody, maybe even a family in the developing world.
I mean, that's a lot. It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
And it's why this Web3 technology is so inevitable, because of the major application.
So one of the cool use cases now of Christ is King is they're working with groups that are doing that to facilitate that, people who have a strong network, a trusted network. And again, if you're Christ is King, Christians. There's Christians all over. You're going through an established community. You're working with the locals who know who are the people who are trustworthy, who are the mothers who actually have children, and those who are guys that just, or whoever, just say they're mothers because they want the money, like it's not just a picture that they've taken or whatever. They have a community on the ground, and now using crypto and Christ is King to facilitate for Christians here in the developed world who would love to make impact in the developing world and facilitate them to give. So now the costs are even lower. They can give directly through crypto, and there's no exchange, there's no cost to exchange, and so you can do that more efficiently. But now what's even more exciting is like the statistic. This is just for Mexico City, which is in the developing world, but Mexico City is an urban city. Okay, you would not. This surprised me actually. 97% of the inhabitants in Mexico City have a cell phone. Okay,
that's a lot.
Only about 50% of them have
Wi-Fi.
access to banking. Wow. You look at that. And in the same way that cell phone technology, leapfrog phone technology, phones were developing and people had access to them, but then, it was hard to solve the last mile problem. Then we had cell phones, and that's leapfrogged it. So, now no one has landlines anymore. But the developed world has cell phones, and they just never bothered to get landlines. We can now welcome them into online banking, but Web3 banking, which is a whole nother system that can completely improve the current banking system. And once you bring banking to, if someone wants to develop, if someone wants to get to grow up and to have economic opportunity, it's absolutely essential that they have access to banking. And without that, they're stuck. So now we can leverage a simple donation, which is really an easy use case, but we're building the infrastructure to provide something so much bigger, banking to the unbanked.
I see why the idea is so useful, but one of the major questions I have is that, say you give it to someone who is in an undeveloped nation, like say someone in Africa, and now they have this cryptocurrency that says it has value. Who's going to accept that there? And are they going to have to trade that into some cash form? Does that now mean you have to have ATMs? Does that mean they have to trade it into something like USDC? And then, so why would someone even use Christ as King in that sense? And so it brings these different questions to mind of how does that get utilized once they're there?
The conversion process is quite simple now, but yes, you would have to convert Christ as King to something like USDC. But now you have the developing world are actually earlier adopters of Web3 than we are. So I don't know what it's like in Mexico, but in the Philippines, they have more crypto wallets than they do here in the US.
Yeah.
So they're already more savvy about that. They already know how to switch things. They already know how to transfer things better than we do here. And the technology is already there. It is getting onboarded is the big problem, but once you're onboarded, the whole conversion to, from Christ is King to Web3 to stable coin to USDC to then, the base, Base and Coinbase now have credit cards that work just like, that. So the integration between the cash, the legacy systems, and Web3 digital currency is moving forward. Well developed.
What do you think, Nigel? What do you think about this conversation? I want you to jump in. I know it's easy when you're here with us physically in the studio, so I always want to be thoughtful of giving you a moment to share your thoughts.
Well, thank you for that. But I'm listening, and these are some very critical points we're raising. I think when we talk about community, at least the way I view it, I feel like the push, particularly with meme coins, it's a lot of commerce. It's commerce heavy, not so community heavy, in my view. Because I feel like the applications of blockchain and being able to credential people may have a greater adoption opportunity than just the commerce and the currency. I can see the lure of the commerce, but if it's truly community that you're building, getting that credential first is the gateway or on-ramp to whatever commerce and other economic benefits that can come to that. I mean, and if you think about it in a more real sense, at least this is the way I see it in my head. If someone's homeless and they have call it a digital ID, not like a driver's license or something to identify them or get people deported, nothing like that. Just something that's decentralized on the blockchain that says I'm in need. I feel like that's a good way to start delivering services, or at least identifying services. It's not without its challenges, but I feel like when the commerce is put first and there's this lure of this coin could go up, even though that's not the underlying or primary objective, it's this distraction that may take away from the opportunity that's there to truly build primarily on community. That's what I think about.
I do think it's interesting how there's so many different communities that are part of the Web3 world, and even how different states are known for things. Like, for instance, Wyoming is really well known for having really positive crypto regulations and compliance and kind of protocols. They just did their big event for this year last week in Jackson Hole, and there were some folks from California that went to share during that. So, you know, like, again, it's like everybody's like, oh, Wyoming has things nailed down right. Well, they still invite people from California to come talk about what we're doing too. So there's so many different things to kind of consider when it comes to the community sector. And everything that's interesting, Santa Barbara just wrapped up Crypto 2025. Guess how many crypto conferences have happened by this organization? Guess what year they are. This is their annual International Cryptology Conference. Guess what number it is?
10.
Malk, I guess, is 10. Teddy, what do you think?
I see 11.
Nigel, Dan, have a guess?
15, maybe.
How about you guys?
Maybe even 20.
45. These folks have been getting people together for 45 straight years for this crypto conference that happened in Santa Barbara.
Does that mean that 45 years ago they were starting to talk about crypto, or was it something different?
They're talking about cryptology.
Yeah.
And then they
quite a bit
pivoted into crypto world. So
yeah, cryptology. You know, we're going to take a break in about 1 minute and transition to AI news of the day. But I just want to mention these two events, right? Jackson Hole, Wyoming, the big Wyoming annual symposium. Everybody's like, well, they nailed it down. But don't forget, they still are inviting people from places like New York and Europe and other places to come have a voice. Nobody has it all figured out yet. And then we often think that crypto is now, right? The base has a new wallet app. And Coinbase and Robinhood are doing these things. And have you seen what's happening with Binance? And look what's going on this week, this month, this year. But this stuff's been going on a long, long time, leveraging this mathematic algorithms. So just encouraged by that. We'll be back again in just a moment with some more conversation. And thanks for being here with us at KOMY, Home of Schoolhouse Radio.
If you don't know me, my name is Ian Utile. And I've been an independent tech entrepreneur for over 20 years in the Silicon Valley. I kind of live a bit of a different life. I live in a treehouse with my two sons that are 9 and 12 years old. Because I'm disconnected from an urban environment and because I have two little children, it gives me a very unique perspective. In addition to the fact I've never really had a job. I just basically built companies. My company, Attention Live, is my 7th company. And I've always been independent. Really didn't raise money for my companies. I've just asked clients to pay us for our services and our products and built companies that way. So because I have a different...
Hello, Internet. I just put on a 4-minute talk from CES, but I'm realizing there's something else I want to show you, talking about community and philanthropy. It's called the Unleash Summit. And I have enough time to play it. This is a little recap of reason my time in Mongolia, where we did a couple different keynotes and kind of got together a community conversation. I think this might be interesting just to see how other people are approaching these technologies around the world.
I am so glad to see everyone here at the beginning of our Unleash Summit for 2024. My name is Scott Oman, and I am one of the speakers here at the conference, but I am also a board member of ALDM, which is the organizer and supporter of the conference today.
After today, you might be able to. We found out that children were not living because they didn't have 24-hour care. Kids with his problem need to be fed by hand every hour and a half for about 6 months. But the staff did not have enough people to feed them 24 hours a day. So we checked with our friend. He encouraged us to ask the government to let us create a special room and let us find nurses and doctors to give these children 24-hour care. I'm a factory owner. This has nothing to do with manufacturing. Many people would say, stay focused, do what you're supposed to do. It's a distraction. It didn't feel like a distraction. This is the first child that lived because we had that room. My daughter adopted him. So he is my grandson.
My 5th country this month that my wife and I have been to. This is my wife, Riza. We just found this beautiful dress downstairs. Now, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to talk in general about innovation and creativity today. Let me start with this. I've been watching lots of documentaries about Genghis Khan. I'm fascinated, I always have been fascinated by leaders, whether leaders did good things or bad things. I've always been fascinated with leadership. I think Jesus was the greatest leader of all time. Jesus said, "Come to me like a child." Children don't think about their mom and dad's identity. Children are free. They're free to dream. They're free to have vision and belief and possibility and hope. And if you want to do great things as an entrepreneur, If you want to be a world-changing innovator, I want you to repeat this after me. God is in a good mood. God created you to be creative. You are innovative. Be like Jesus. Break the rules. Do what is in your heart. All right, yay. Yay for all of you. Yay that you're here with us right now. This will be a little bit of a different workshop on purpose. I'm purposefully making this different than normal workshops. So Riza, can you tell them what we did last weekend?
Had an event in Manila, Philippines, where I actually come from. So we invited different leaders and content creators like doing TikTok, Instagram. And we, what we did is also same here, like this. We created a big circle. And we have our town hall different topics that we discussed. So we talked about business, education, politics, and a lot more.
Do what you think is right. Be authentic. Be transparent. Be honest. Be true to yourself.
In our life, we have different approach and we have different ways on how are we going to share.
So wherever you stand up, we're going to wrap up now. I want to say one last thing before we wrap up. So when you think about the future of faith and the future of tech, find a community. Don't listen to the people in charge. Use technology for the good of people. This is your invitation. Thank you for coming to the workshop today. Thank you. Did you enjoy it?
Super.
Was it super or super duper?
Super duper because they thought I'm Mongolian.
They did. Everywhere we go, they think that you're native.
Yeah, they're talking to me Mongolian.
Welcome back to Beachside Tech Talk, episode 46. My name is Ian Utile. I'm here with my team. Hello, Malachi Utile.
My name is Ted Haas.
Wow, Ted, the way you said that was so powerful. Man, you got something really special when it comes to introducing yourself. You know that?
You know, there's a street.
You got a future in
Hawes
this, Ted.
Street.
You could just be a
Do you know
self-introducer.
that there is a latrine called a Hawes?
There's a what?
I believe that.
Yeah, you should know that as a builder.
I've actually used it before.
Yeah,
actually.
the Hawes. But it's not
I had
our
to
Hawes family.
I had to take a TED in the Haas.
There is a form. Come on, man.
You asked for it, bro.
There is also a type of avocado.
Come on,
the
man.
Hawes avocado.
Those are
Do you
good.
know how we got the word TRAP? I don't know if we're allowed to say that
Probably
on the
not.
radio.
Probably not. I don't know.
No, it's this guy who invented this new valve that revolutionized how you flush the toilet.
His name was Crapper.
Exactly. And he wanted his name to go down. You know, he wanted to become
That was his
legendary.
name.
Like
He wanted his
Achilles.
name to be
He wanted
said many
glory
times.
to be known for generations. So he named it the Crapper valve.
And his
that
name
kind
was
of
John
backfired on him.
Crapper, which of course I got to use the John,
And
or
he's the-
I got to
gotta
use the Crapper.
to
Exactly.
take-
So
yes.
he took a double dip on that one.
Yeah. So I think that backfired. There's many times where we have unintended consequences of our desire to, become known and great.
Nigel, what are you thinking about this beautiful conversation?
This is a masterclass in branding.
Well, there is a lot of AI news that's happened in the last week. I'll cover some stories that have made impact on community and philanthropy. Before I do, anything that stand out to you guys, anything that's been in the news this last couple days or within the last week or even further, especially if it has to do with what's happening around philanthropy, charity, donations, giving, if it has to do with community, whether it's community leadership or community membership or participating. What have you guys seen with AI that's been making a big impact?
I can't remember the number,
Go ahead, Nigel. While you can't remember, I'll have Nigel go first. Go ahead.
I saw a story. I haven't been able to fully confirm the timing on it, but it might be a little old. In San Jose, that talks about this AI computer vision that they were using to identify homeless encampments and people living in their cars to deploy better services. And I found the article interesting because it is truly the place we find ourselves in. When we have great technology that allows us to identify need and act on it, but there's also the possibility of leveraging that same data to weaponize it against those populations, which in this case happen to be vulnerable. So I think it's a open conversation, and it's one that needs to be addressed. And I don't think it's one that can be swept under the rug or quieted with some headlines. I feel like one way that this could be helpful is to be right out in front about what the technology is not going to be doing, what it's specifically purposed to do, and who exactly is going to take responsibility, like a single person, as we say in project management, a single throat to choke, if it is used improperly. Because I think that will build some trust. It'll build some goodwill. It'll help people feel a little bit more comfortable about raising their hand for some of these services. Because something you said before, Ian, that about programs and things like that are available, and it leads to one of the projects I'm working on now with a group God Enough that I sit with on Thursdays, is their libraries. Our libraries have so many programs that people simply don't know about. And this to me is a challenge, because it's great to say we have these programs, and it's great to say, a headline or a soundbite, but how many hands are you putting this information in? How far are you taking the feet on the street? And to take it one last point further is this. Think about back in the days when people were selling mixtapes out of the trunks of their cars. We're enamored with, with Spotify streams. No comparison. DJ Clue sold $1 million worth of mixtapes. hand to hand, out of trunks from barbershops. You couldn't even measure that in today's world. So it is possible.
Right.
It's just a matter of how much work we're willing to do and how passionate we are about the exercise. So something to think about in that.
Sweet. So AI news, this isn't necessarily super new, but it's happened recently. AB 379 is a bill that was signed into law. It'll become law of the land in California January 1st. And it is making it a felony to purchase sex with a minor, correcting some previous laws, bringing California up to where I believe every other state is. And what's the connection with AI? We used AI, and particularly my friend Vanessa Russell and her vision. We helped launch this, Ian, at Purpose. Purpose was really where this came together. She had the vision of just this frustration of how we pass laws, then the communities that they affect the most, the minority communities, Black and brown people, in her case, Black and brown young ladies who are on the streets, and they're affected by these laws, and their voice and their opinion and their insights are not heard in the legal process, and the laws we pass are super complicated. So she had this vision. What if we used AI to translate those laws into normal English, 5th grade English that anyone can understand? Turns out AI is great at learning legalese that's complicated, and then use that to then form, to partner with advocates and get survivors and community representatives, people who are on the ground, helping the victims of human trafficking, those who are actually receiving these, to get them a voice at the table. And anyways, that's been a success. We helped co-sponsor this bill, and the bill was passed. So that's very exciting news about effective philanthropy, changing policy to protect the most vulnerable.
Good job.
It's amazing how.
Congratulations, Vanessa Russell and the team at Love Never Fails, and Senator Krell, who authored that bill. And Shannon Grove, who authored a similar bill. She was a signatory to this bill. You know, those are the real heroes.
So it goes into effect in January, this next year.
Yeah, he signed it. It's done deal on January 1st.
That's sweet.
Yeah. But seeing how a small group of people, like just the people you were listening and you and the Purpose group, were able to do something that has major importance and is huge. And AI was a part of helping that happen. There's a lot of ways AI can help things happen. I mean, like you were saying, legalese. It's so easy to be like, oh, I don't even understand whatever this is, whether it's looking at legal things or something else. And so it's nice that AI is giving the ability for the single person or the small group to be able to make big changes, like pass a big law.
Yeah, that's so that to me is the sweet spot. And this is where the technologists and the big companies need to press in. You know, it's not AI for the elite. It's the elite pushing into this problem that is very, very real, that's hurting the most disenfranchised. That's, to me, is the coolest space for AI. And when we can connect the community at that ends, that's where philanthropy goes from being, unintended consequences where we want to help and we make things worse just because we're full of ourselves, to actually where we do beautiful work that lifts up the least of these, the disenfranchised. But through doing that, we lift up all of society.
Yay!
Yay, yay, yay. Go.
It is interesting, the things that happen that impact all of society. It's not very often. We live in our silos, so oftentimes we think that whatever's important to us in our own little silo, that's what's important to everybody else. So, for instance, you might be a person of a certain faith orientation. Mm-hmm. And so whatever happens in your faith, let's say you're a Catholic, the Pope passes, new Pope gets elected out of Chicago, and in your mind, everybody in the world cares about it. Like, everybody cares about your new Pope out of Chicago, but that's not nearly the case.
Well, in that case, it's a pretty close approximation. That is an event that affects, obviously, there's a ton of Catholics who care very, very deeply about it, but there's also a whole lot of people in the world who aren't Catholics that's an important event too. But yes, I agree with your bigger point that it's not going to be as important to others as it is to these people.
Well, if you just look at technology companies, it's like we have a tendency to believe whatever happens with ChatGPT, that matters to everybody. No, it doesn't matter to anybody in Russia or China or North Korea or a number of different countries that don't have access to ChatGPT. And so we do have this mindset oftentimes where it's like, oh, we are helping humanity. Medical is another area, right? Like how much progress is happening with medical intervention because of AI, because of these different tools. And maybe that's really the way that it makes the biggest impact. Like if we get rid of a certain type of cancer, or we eliminate something as significant as like a type 2 diabetes or some sort of, spinal injury type of thing. Like if we can use these tools, whether it's robotics, AI, or some sort of brain interface or, anything of that nature, then we make a real impact on all of humanity. Obviously saving lives is a huge impact. Like anything that can be done to save lives will impact all of humanity over time. But sometimes we're very, very flippant in just saying like, this is going to change everything for humanity. And usually that's not the case. Yeah. Usually it has more to do with things being changed in one nation or in one state or things of that nature. I do want to mention a couple of things in the news because there's a lot that's happened since last week on the community and philanthropy front. There's a major investigation out of Texas right now, and this is a brand new story this last week. And the attorney general there, Ken Paxton, he said that the two platforms, Meta AI Studio and Character AI, they are basically doing deceptive marketing, claiming to be mental health tools. And so even if Meta and Character AI do not want people to use their AI tools as a replacement for a mental health practitioner, a couch therapist, or someone with an MFT, right now that's what's happening. There are people using it, and part of it is that's what the tools are telling people. The tools are basically telling people like, oh, no, I can help you through this. And so when you consider children that are struggling with mental health disorders of any sort, of any kind, maybe they are depressed, maybe they are feeling manic and out of control, maybe they are struggling with anything having to do with weight, anorexia, bulimia, etc., whatever it is. But let's say they have some sort of disruption in their mental capacity. If you have these AI tools jumping in and basically making the kids feel like, oh, we got you, that is a big concern to this team out of Texas. I'll bring it closer to home. There's a big $5 million award that was just given to UC Davis. So obviously this impacts Central California. And it was given to the community hub that is on the UC Davis campus. And it's to help them run AI, the Institute of Virtual Organization for Artificial Intelligence. So this is part of a $100 million public-private investment that's going into AI. And this first $5 million came to UC Davis. So again, it'd be really easy for like anyone involved with UC Davis, Web3, blockchain, crypto world, be like, oh, look what's happening. Look, and it's like, it's very easy to be insular. Right? It's easy for anybody in Texas Attorney General office to be like, we're getting them. We're stopping the AI abuse. It's like, yeah, it's very insular. You're talking about two companies that you're calling out. And so one thing we need to be thoughtful of when it comes to kind of the news of the day is that most things don't impact everybody. They just, tell a big story or they have a great headline or something of that nature, and then causes people to feel like, oh, like this is a big thing that's happening. The last story that I'll say before I kind of lean back on you guys and see if you have any input is the Rockefeller Foundation started putting support toward all things in society, and now that was started in 1956, and now here we are, half a century later, and a lot of their philanthropic efforts is going toward building ethical AI for public good. So again, their version of what ethical AI is might be different than ours. their perspective of public good might be different than ours. And I imagine there's some people that love what they're doing and agree with what they're doing. And so I hope they're successful in that. And I also hope that people don't look at some massive institution and be like, oh, they're handling it, they're doing the grants. It's up to us, each individual, to make a positive impact. It was said a few times during the base event that we did with the Coinbase community over in San Francisco that people that call themselves Catholics and Christians give more money away than others that don't. And then also it was recognized that people pretty much of any faith, even if you are a Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, or something else, because you're part of a community, one thing that community does is they talk about needs. These people need houses, they need food, they need clothing. These kids need to be adopted or fostered. These animals need to be adopted or fostered. This place needs to be cleaned up. And so there's a lot of energy around communities talking about how they can make things better. And so oftentimes you have a lot of technologists. They're like, okay, we're going to build this AI tool for ethical good. Okay, we're going to give this grant to do things around public good with AI. Okay, we're going to do this with Web3. And oftentimes, if these organizations, people, initiatives would just go talk to those like Vanessa that are already making a massive impact on the world and say, okay, here's Vanessa. Like, she's literally getting laws passed to help protect people on the streets. She's doing all these things around re-educating people that get off the street and out of prostitution, whether it was by their own accord or they were forced into it. So how did these organizations get around Vanessa and Love Never Fails and support her? Because there's already the appetite for making life transformation, and there's this technology that can make a big impact, but oftentimes the tech companies and tech people do try to do things siloed on their own or with their own little pet project rather than get behind the organizations that are already slaying the dragon.
I think, it starts with those people who, we need more humility. I think that's the key. And I think for the technology companies, they have to realize,
Ted, you're always looking in the mirror like that.
Oh no, Dad.
You need more humility. I agree with you.
Yeah, that is totally not the case. I won a medal for being the most humble guy in the Bay Area, but the jerks took it away from me because I wore it.
I get it now.
I think we need more humility.
Yes, you do.
To realize we need to get the whole community together. And the AI tools are now giving us an opportunity to bring everyone together. But if we don't use those AI tools to bring everyone together, to get all the stakeholders together, to learn the voices that aren't already there, the people that aren't already there who might have the most to contribute. If we're not intentional about it, we'll create wonderful tools. But like you said, they're just going to be in a silo, and we're going to replicate the mistakes we've already made in the past. So
how do we avoid that?
More humility.
I want to hear what
I'm
Nigel
glad
has
you
to
asked
say.
that. So to piggyback off something you said on one of our previous shows about digging holes, you have a better machine, you dig more holes. And specifically to Ted's point with Vanessa and taking care of the legalese. I agree, celebrate that. I feel that the real push now is how many more of those type situations exist that you could apply the exact same formula or framework to right now. Mm-hmm. Like, because praising ourselves over the one is the example. Like, AI itself is a bunch of pattern recognition. The process is there. How many more? Who's standing in the way? Who's not standing in the way? And even more importantly, to what you said before, Ian, how many times have we listened to C-SPAN or one of these other places, and you have politicians talking about technology that they 100% do not understand?
Right.
It sounds ridiculous completely, but they're talking as if they know something. And the issue is not to poke fun at them. The issue is, why don't they know? What are we doing to make sure that they know so that they can make a more informed decision? Because if you don't know something, you're going to sign whatever is expedient, whatever can lead to economic extract, not necessarily community good.
You're hitting
So
on
these are the types of things that are important. So where can we do that? Where can we say, well, why can't we do this again and again? And take the 1950s. This is what we were able to do then. 10. With AI, we should be able to do 1,000. Why not?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Nigel, and that's my big dream, and this is what I think this, bringing up Vanessa again and the success that they've had. This is one example, but I think, when we're talking about community and philanthropy, the biggest philanthropist, I believe, probably in the world it would be the American government, and we can look at social services in a different paradigm and say, okay, they're basically public philanthropy. And I don't like when we, make the government the other, because government shouldn't be the other. We all opt into the government. We have we have a democracy. It's not, it's not it's not a monarchy, by divine right to rule, and we don't have any say in it. We have say in it, but we can do so much better. And right now, the way our laws are made and the way our public resources are allocated is very obtuse. It's hard to understand. We have long, complicated laws. We have a lobbying system that, is very, very big money, and we don't really know who's in and what their interests are. It's all obtuse and complicated. Well, AI is great at taking complicated things and translating them into simple things. Mm-hmm. And if we seize the opportunity to say, wow, we can get involved. We can use these tools to get involved. We can mobilize a whole new generation of activists. We can provide tools so that the next generation or the current generation of policymakers who are elected have ability to understand what's happening there, and the people who elect them have ability to hold them accountable and to elect ones who, elect other ones if they're not following. We can transform that. The other trend that's interesting, like I see this particularly in California, we're in a budget, we're in a budget deficit right now. So it's really hard. So the way government, particularly the way California allocates money, and the nonprofits that rely upon those grants to provide services, that's being yanked, and it's really hard and it's tough. So those on the ground who are providing services to those in need, there's more people in need, and now there's less resources there. So we have to be more efficient. Mm-hmm. But again, we have to be more efficient. Lots of politicians have gotten elected on saying they're going to be more efficient and they're going to bring data to this obtuse project. Well, now we have to actually execute on that. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, there's plenty of people who, whether they're a politician or a local mayor, something like that, who will say, yeah, I'm going to do this, but then it just doesn't happen. And the thing is, we're human. Humans do human things.
Well, this is, what Trump and Elon Musk got in a fight about, Mm-hmm. They were going to bring data in and reform government, by using AI and others to go see what was happening. And it was harder. It's easier said to do that. It's easier to say you could do that than to actually execute it. It's pretty hard.
Of course, it's easy to have big vision. It's hard to make that vision become a reality.
Unless you're Ian.
If only that was true. Nothing's easy. Everything's hard. But you know what? We should be doing hard things. Everyone should challenge themselves to do hard things. We'll be right back again after this commercial break.
The primary secret I've learned in 25 years in co-founding 10 companies, I've been an entrepreneur in residence in 4 different organizations. I guest lecture at 5 universities, and I give that context so you understand, I'm about this. I'm an entrepreneur to the max. One of my secrets is to do extremely hard things, to seek challenges, and to seek discipline. So I've always had in mind that I wanted to do a 40-day water fast. And a lot of people think they can't survive a day without food. Or if you've kind of studied fasting, maybe you've done a 36-hour or a 3-day water fast. And for the last 26 years, I've been fasting off and on. I started off with day, and then 4 days, and then 7, and then 10s, and then 12. Today, I'm on day 17. I've had 0 calories in my body, no food, haven't had any smoothies, no juice, nothing, just water for 17 days.
and I got 23 more days to go, and I am not counting down the days till I get to eat. See, I am enjoying the discipline. I am enjoying the suffering. See, that's what a real entrepreneur does. A real entrepreneur enjoys suffering. No, this is very important, because a lot of times people think, I want to quit my job, that sucks, and I want to do things on my own, that would be great. Well, my response is, a job has safety, it has health insurance, it has a consistent income, it has some place that you know where to go, you know how to succeed. That's not terrible. That's a grace that society provides jobs. Entrepreneurship is a constant battle of hurdles and suffering and difficulty, and the process of having to get yourself up and work long hours. Why? Not because someone's over you telling you have to, because you're so driven for the outcome. So I think there's something very powerful about the obsession with discipline, the obsession with chasing after really, really challenging goals. Now, for me right now, it's not eating food for 40 days, as that's been a desire I've had from 26 years. I look forward to the experience. It's been wonderful. And for everybody that's listening, you probably think to yourself, this guy sounds pretty articulate. He seems pretty sharp, like he has something to say. Well, I haven't had food for 17 days, so you'd be surprised what you can accomplish in your life, even when you don't have everything that you think that you need. And maybe it's not food, maybe it's money, maybe it's a network, maybe it's the right idea, maybe it's the right technology, maybe it's the right environment, maybe it's being in the right, something you think, if I only have this, then I can. Well, I have no food for 17 days and I still will. And this is the thing I want to tell entrepreneurs. Seek discipline, seek suffering, seek challenges. This is the thing that unlocks everything in your dreams as you drive after whatever it is you're doing in entrepreneurship.
Wow. That's a very powerful message.
As drug addiction is one of them.
I don't want to just inspire all of you to think through what Web3 and AI has been, is, and could be. I don't want to just inspire you to be able to make more money or have a more profitable business or have a bigger impact or save time with automation. I want to give part of my worldview that has kept me faithful, not faithful to a moral code. That's much more difficult for me. I was never a pastor because I cuss too much and drink too much and smoke too much. Like I was like, I'm never going to make it. But I clearly am mystical. And I definitely have a much more expanded view of life than just pain and pleasure.
Welcome back to Beachside Tech Talk. My name is Ian Utile. This is episode number 46, and it's good to be here with everyone. This is the final segment of the day. We get to do this every weekday, 12 to 2, here at KOMY, the home of Schoolhouse Radio. We finally have gotten some rhythms about what we're doing, and it's always a joy to be here with my brother Dan and with Ted, Nigel, my son Malachi, Riza here with us, Kristen producing.
It is good
the rest
to be
of the
here.
team. It is. It's great to be here.
It's always an amazing conversation that we get to have. I feel like it brings each of us so much value, and I hope that it can be just as valuable to the people listening. I mean, it's common to have a show where people are kind of just talking, and it's less about the show and it's more about the conversation. When you look at the big podcasts or radio shows that happen, like for one example, I'll say Lex Fridman. Me and Dad last night, we were just looking at how he had an episode recently where he had a 10.5-hour conversation with someone.
Did you guys see that?
It's
Lex did a
insane.
10.5-hour
And the thing is, that wouldn't have happened.
No, you didn't. Come on.
That wouldn't have happened if you were just sitting there and you had like certain bullet points you had to talk about. Instead, it happened because they wanted to talk to each other. And that's the way that I think it's started get for us, and I'm really excited for the future of this show.
Mean, it was an important conversation, right? The conversation's about the industrial war machine, the military industrial complex, and the significance of what's happened to get us to this point as a world, as a country, the significance of changes that are being had, recognizing some positive changes and elements around seeking peace and not policing the world. It's one thing I always really appreciate about Ron Paul is he would constantly talk about, like, we need to take care of ourselves, our country, and stop policing the world. Stop making excuses for policing the world. We try to make it around morality, but a lot of times it's not about morality. It's about other things. So I won't get into it. It's not my area of specialty, but it was fascinating to see.
Who was the guest?
Scott something. Scott Hanley?
Well, what was he? A scientist? Is he a theologist? Was he a business guy?
He's like the foremost expert on the military industrial complex. And he has been a critic of the American military industrial complex publicly as a journalist. For like almost 30 years. So anyways, we're going to talk a bit about the future and the impact of AI and Web3 on it. Let's start here. How might these technologies, how might AI, robotics, Web3, how might these things make a positive impact on ending wars, on fostering peace? Ted, you often say you have a vision for a homeless museum in the future, for a museum of the incarcerated.
A cool idea.
Wouldn't it be wild if in the future our descendants go to a museum of war, because war is a foreign thing? Is there a possibility for war to become so unusual, so foreign, so oriented around terrorists, but not countries, that we actually have a museum of war that showed, back with our grandparents, they used to go and bomb each other with drones. Like, look at this. That would be a wonderful outcome for humanity. So any thoughts on how tech might get us to that end result? Because there's nothing more important for our communities and for philanthropy than for people to stay alive and be able to participate in helping our community be positive elements in their society and be able to generate things that have value and then give those things away to those that are in need. So what are your guys' thoughts on the ability for tech and automation to make a positive impact on shifting the concerns we have around
my short answer to that is I always see tech as dual use, and it's like, the most probably the most dramatic example of this is nuclear. The breakthrough when Einstein saw E equals mc squared, and then that can release incredible amount of energy. It could solve all the world's energy problems potentially. And in fact, solar energy is related to nuclear energy because the sun is a nuclear power plant, and we're just receiving this energy. But it's empowered us to destroy all of humanity many times over. We could blow up our whole planet. It's dual use, and I think and it's up to us to make the decisions to make sure we don't use it for the bad things and we do use it for the good things. That's kind of my view overall of technology. Nearly every technology that has been invented can be used for bad stuff or for good stuff. And it's up to us to use it for the good stuff. I think what's unique about AI and blockchain is unique in the sense that I think they are the most powerful tools ever entrusted to humanity. And particularly with AI, we're setting a trajectory that we don't know if we're going to be able to reverse it later. Most of us, I think the general consensus right now is that there's going to come a point where you can't reverse the trajectory that you've set. So this time frame is very, very important for humanity, and we have to be very intentional about bringing out the good in us and rallying around this. We can eliminate wars. Wars are fought over from a scarcity mindset. You know, and you look at cultures that are warful, they're because they're fighting over resources, lack of resources, you know, and or either real or perceived. And if you look at societies where there's been abundance of resource, war is much, much less common there. So if we can create a world of abundance and there's no lack anymore, you know, we should naturally expect as a consequence of that wars decrease.
I mean, just the three of us earlier during one of the breaks, we were talking about how like robots will likely be taking a lot of the jobs that we do. And then that kind of made me think about how, well, what it really is a job. A job is kind of just something that humans need to do for something. And if robots are able to do all of that, then hypothetically, a lot of the need that humans need to do is kind of removed. And I had just seen a post by actually Elon, which said something that you say very frequently, Dad, a universal maximum income. He said high income, but I get the idea of a maximum income. I mean, I was just talking with AI the other day about like, I had the thought of, well, there's like 8 billion humans in the world. And I wonder if there's enough area on the planet that's land for every person to have enough land and to have like whatever kind of life they'd want to live. And I had kind of gone into it, seen the numbers, and I'm like, whoa, with 8 billion people, you could even go like 10. There's plenty of room. And especially if you start to make kind of isolated cities, and then you can still have over half of the entire surface area of the earth that is designated solely to nature. And right now it's only around 15%. So think about that difference. Instead of having national parks or one in every very far place, and you kind of see forests every now and then. We're lucky here in Santa Cruz to have plenty of forests surrounding us, but in plenty of places that just isn't the reality. Now we very feasibly can have the reality where we have 55% or more, or maybe just under, around that much of the earth that is fully designated to be, that's for the earth. And that's a perfectly feasible reality. And I think that it's something that people will slowly just start to progress towards, especially if we start to acknowledge that we have an entire universe out there, because we can go to the moon. We can go and turn Mars into another place that we can live at. And these ideas are something that I think is going to spark a lot of good to happen. And I'm excited to see where humanity gets to go. Deep
you
breaths,
use the
everybody,
word
right?
acknowledgement that I find myself using frequently. And I think that is one of the paths through. And I think the data is going to do it for us. I believe we do horrible things because we just don't understand what the consequences are on the other side. So the more we can see how things play out, the better opportunity we have to make a more beneficial decision. Like, I have this thought about, and I'm going to pick on the police here for a second, not in a mean way, but in a way that's more practical. You think about someone getting stopped. I think that bad behavior for expired tag would be thought about differently if every officer being trained saw an immersive video, like virtual reality, on just how bad that situation can go. I mean, full cycle. Like, God forbid you actually shoot the person, civil rights violation, lose your family, all over an expired tag. And it points back to it. And then we start to pull back the lens and see it's an expired tag. It's not Charles Manson. Was that really something that you really want to pursue when you have a firearm? Maybe not. But it gives you something to think about. But without that view, there is a higher likelihood, in my opinion, that you go out half-cocked. And tempers flare. Humans are humans. Someone says something spicy. And before you know it, worst case scenario, full effect. So that vision, that view with data, with the ability to see it played out forward in a very real way, may save us.
Well, I think it's worked in one way, Nigel, to where taser guns. Taser guns saved, I'm sure, millions of lives.
Could you imagine?
Well, I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right now.
It's got to be,
so it's a non-lethal way of subduing or arresting someone. I know we've all seen the videos. It seems a little dramatic, Sure. I've accidentally touched an electrical fence that kept horses in San Martin when I was younger, and that's no joke.
Was that where Grammy was at?
Yeah. I was actually standing in water, but I had rain boots on. Otherwise, it would have really jacked me up.
Jeez.
But when you see people making faces and contorting their body and making noises, it definitely doesn't feel good. But what a great way to be able to handcuff and subdue without having a lethal force.
Mm-hmm.
So, to your point, Nigel, I think you're right. It can get out of hand a lot, but and one thing that has been done is they've been able to implement another form of non-lethal force. So I think that's good.
Well, we're also following the data and seeing what really works. Like, we know that community policing works, and building relationships pre-existing and create, it can be as simple as a like a fair, and you bring police, law enforcement together with the community in a positive environment. We can use basketball for that. Have a basketball tournament, and we've all seen some of those or maybe you haven't, but I have seen these heartwarming videos where police officers go into the hood and they start playing basketball with the community there. When you foster those type of relationships, and now the community and the police officers, it de-escalates the tension before them. So when they need to intervene, now it's a lot easier. So, just using AI to show those data in the connection between, what makes a safe community and not a safe community. I love this idea of using virtual reality to educate police officers to make a stop better. I also like the idea of using virtual reality to educate the community to understand and to empathize with the pressure that the police officers are going through, and the split-second decisions they have to make and how hard it is. And the more you can bring people together, the more you can create empathy and foster strong communities. That's where you get positive outcomes. So if we can use these tools to do that, and also use the AI tools to show the data, to show this is what really works. This isn't just, and this is what's really happening. This isn't just a theory that if we do this thing, we think it will make the community better. We think it will make crime less common and all that, but it really doesn't. Two, these are the things that actually work.
I think I'm going to just lean in a little bit more on this one. And I agree with you. I think those data points and community involvement are good. But I'm talking also about specifically common sense AI. Weapon, human, likelihood for a problem is super high. Over something that's not really that deep, like an expired tag, not worth it. I don't even need the AI for that. Not a good idea. And I'm sure the data will prove it out. So those are the things, those common sense things that are right there, played out in a visual way with the vest and everything else. You're feeling what's going on, will help to, one, free up resources to do something that's more impactful, like prevent human trafficking, prevent people actually going out there robbing, stealing, beating up old people, like that kind of thing, versus 5 people stopping an elderly woman because she was going past the speed limit kind of thing with a weapon. And I know that sounds a kind of way, but it's an important point to be made because there's an opportunity here. For sure.
Did you get a moving violation recently, Nigel?
People should not be pulling you over for speeding.
There's been a few things. That's fine. and that's fine. But again, it didn't end badly for me, but it could have. And I will raise you by saying this. How many times do we need to see the same movie?
Yeah.
Guy gets stopped, something silly, he gets dead, city's on fire.
Right.
Rinse and repeat.
The end.
And you know what's done to fix it? Nothing.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
self-driving cars will solve this issue because now, you know, that would completely change the
No
whole
one to rob.
registration thing.
No one to steal.
Yeah, you know, and you pull over a Waymo and, you know, give the car the
Ian, make a
ticket,
note of this date because this will go down in history because I feel confident
Do it.
that they're going to find a way to do that, to deal with that too. Because why would we need a license? I'm not driving. So, like, I'm seriously interested in how that's going to play out.
Yeah.
Do I need a license? Like, that's going to be interesting.
There's going to be a give and take for everything. So there's no quick way to solve something as complicated as how people are treated, especially on the extreme ends when they are pulled over. So what I will say is this. Everyone would benefit if we go to an anti-dystopic future. And when you think about all sectors of society, if everything is built upon community, then if we can start by applying some of these tools to community, it will impact education, business, news, art, etc. So we have to be okay with some level of compromise, and we have to be thoughtful about how do you make changes that have the highest potential of positive impact. So for me, I feel very strongly that AI transparency via distributed ledgers, the blockchain, that likely has the highest possible potential of making a positive impact upon society in an anti-dystopic future progress.
How can we make sure that the AI is going to be transparent in the right way? That it doesn't just
I
pull
don't
a human.
imagine that the companies like X.AI, which is X.com's Grok, or formerly Twitter, or ChatGPT, or any of these organizations, I don't imagine that they really want AI transparency via distributed ledgers. I imagine that they would be much more comfortable having complete autonomy, privacy, no regulations, no compliance, no safeguards, no ethics concerns, no intervention from the government, no accountability for when mistakes are made. That's their preference. Like all of us would prefer to just eat pizza and pie and sit around at the beach all day and be served. I mean, now it may not be good for us ultimately, but if you could just ask somebody, hey, would you like to go on vacation or work in the mine? You'd be like, I want to go on vacation. Well, same thing with these companies. They don't want the things that are best for humanity. So we have to try and get these things rolled out in a way that the market's demanding it. So when we think about the way that the market will respond well, I'm going to leave everybody with this thought. We've seen cryptocurrency and meme coins and AI go ballistic. We've seen things go from 0 to 10 million users, 0 to 100 million users very, very quickly. What will happen when communities and charities and nonprofits begin to implement these same types of elements and tools? What happens when people get excited about giving the way that they get excited about gambling? That, to me, is a future worth chasing down. So I hope everybody's enjoyed our conversation. I know I have. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 12 Pacific. Thank you, everybody. All right, Internet. I thank you for joining us. I like to say bye to you personally, just as I like to open up personally. Nigel, I'm loving you right now. I'll see you tomorrow. And all right, everybody. Goodbye. We'll be back again tomorrow.